Hello and welcome to a pro basketball show with me, Andrew Willett. We're in the midst of WNBA coverage and excited to bring our content to you. You can catch a pro basketball show on streaming services such as YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify with live broadcasts on playback. Make sure to follow us at APBShow on social media platforms such as Twitter and Instagram, with more coming soon. Without further ado, a pro basketball show. Hello and welcome to a pro basketball show. We are getting set and ready for the WNBA season, just days away. And today we're going to talk about one of the best teams in the association. They are the reigning champions and frankly one of the better teams I have seen, and they just got a little bit better in the offseason, the Las Vegas Aces. To do that, I am joined now by Nick Andre. And Nick, when I went in to try and find a good enough bio for you, I saw your Twitter bio. It said, I just talk hoops. And frankly, after going in and looking at your LinkedIn, all of your information, so many sources, so much work that you have done, and that couldn't be more accurate. You taught a bunch of hoops, so thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, man. It's a pleasure to be here. Like you mentioned, we are currently less than a week away from the beginning of the WNBA season. I'm just excited, man. I'm excited to talk hoops.
Absolutely. I was talking recently. I just missed a little bit of WNBA action, and I went and watched the preseason today and had a good time. But yeah, just excited to get back into it. Did some WNBA action going. But we're going to talk Aces today, and specifically with the Aces.
But yeah, it's kind of going in and out. But I think we're good now.
All right. Yeah, well, the question is, are we going to win big in Las Vegas this summer?
Are we going to win big in Las Vegas this summer?
Yes, sir.
It's a possibility, man. I'm really liking this Aces team. I think they really regrouped coming off this championship of this past year, and I think they got even better. I mean, when you think about the new additions to this team, two-time MVP, two-time WNBA champion Candace Parker, who's won in two different destinations, now looking to add that veteran experience, and then of course that championship experience to this new and improved roster. Then of course, you got another underrated player in my opinion, Alicia Clark, who is a two-time champion as well with Seattle, who is a great on-ball defender, brings intensity to this team that can add to this team. So I think the Aces are really locked and loaded into the season, man. I think they're continuing to surround A'ja Wilson with great talent, and I'm just excited to see how the chemistry will build this year.
So before we get into the Aces this season, I want to talk about the world champions last year, as they kind of took the lead by storm when they came in. 26-10 record, a tiebreaker put them in the first seed heading into the postseason. They run through Phoenix, they run through the Mystics almost a little bit too easily. And then they just showed they were the best team, going up 2-0 against Connecticut before winning that series in 4. So I guess it's hard to come off thinking anything else but euphoria. But what were your takeaways from the Las Vegas Aces a season ago?
Well, first and foremost, I'm going to give a lot of credit to the front office for Las Vegas. Making the coaching change from Bill Laimbeer to Becky Hammon was a really big adjustment. And I think what it was, at least from what I saw throughout the course of this year, was Becky really understood the players. She understood their talent, understood their versatility. She kind of went into like kind of a 5-out offense, because I was looking at the stats from this past season compared to the season before in 2021. They shot a higher percentage from three. They took more three-point attempts. They took 13 three-point attempts in 2021. In 2022, they shot 26 three-point attempts. So that's already half of what they averaged the season prior. So I think adding that 5-out offense, and then of course with A'ja Wilson leading the way, really elevated her game, not even just from a scoring perspective, but from a defensive perspective as well, being a great rim protector, really being locked in, being a great communicator on that end. And then, of course, in my opinion, Kelsey Plum, who took a big leap as well. She averaged 14 points, I believe, in 2021, then ended up being the leading scorer in 2022, averaging 20 points per game. And then, honestly, one of the biggest emergence, probably more so in the playoffs, was Chelsea Gray, who played decent in the regular season, but really turned on, coming into the playoffs. She was their go-to scorer down the stretch, which really did help. And of course, coming into this team, she already had a championship with the Sparks in 2016. So already having that deep playoff run and having the championship experience, that was really key for Las Vegas. So overall, it was a really great season last year for them. I really liked how Becky Hammon really understood her talent and really helped expand their game. And I think she's going to do the same this year as well.
I kind of almost forgot about the storyline that was Las Vegas changing their style of play. And you're right, a lot of credit needs to go to the front office for hiring Becky Hammon, Bill Laimbeer stepping into that front office to step away and allow that change to kind of happen. She did a great job in her first season. Obviously, the developments of the players you mentioned, we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. But specifically with Becky Hammon, I mean, there were questions, and she went in and answered them all right away, going in, winning a championship in her first season, Coach of the Year. She did the thing, and it was really impressive. And we did into this season, and there were a couple of rumors, maybe from the Toronto Raptors. Do you think that she is here to stay, or do you think 2, 3 years down the line, an NBA job like that calls and she might depart?
Well, if you're any smart front office like the Las Vegas Aces front office can be, people may forget, but Asia Wilson actually put out some tweets regarding that Becky Hammon was considering, or I wouldn't say she was considering, but that the Raptors were interested in interviewing Becky Hammon, and she kind of shut that down immediately. So if Asia Wilson is happy with Becky Hammon being on the sidelines, then I think that Becky Hammon will be there to stay for it as long as it can be.
I agree. I think like as important as it is for the NBA to get a female coach, I think Becky Hammon's here. She's winning. She's fantastic. Keep her in the W. And like you said, Nathan Asia Wilson happy. If you're the Las Vegas Aces, you have to keep her around. Now, as we kind of transition to the off season, it really from it wasn't a busy one, I wouldn't say, for the Aces. They didn't do or have a ton of moves outside of kind of the large ones. And I guess before getting into kind of all of the big moves of Candace Parker, Alicia Clark, like you mentioned, um, and everything else that went into this offseason, I want to start out with some of the rougher news, which was the allegations and the statement made by former player De'Erica Hamby, who was traded this offseason. How serious? Like, obviously, we need to take those statements seriously, but how much does that hurt the Aces organization? What were your thoughts on that whole situation?
It was an unfortunate situation. I'm a big De'Erica Hamby fan. I love what she brings to the table on both ends of the floor, and she was a player that really dedicated a lot to this franchise. She was drafted, I believe, 16 or 17. I can't remember exactly what year, but she spent a good amount of time in Las Vegas. She was there throughout the whole development years. She was there at the beginning of Asia Wilson's career. So she was there to see the transition. She was actually there when they were still in San Antonio, where they were the stars. So, her making that transition from San Antonio to Vegas alongside with the franchise, I feel like, in my opinion, the front office could at least handle it like at least a little bit better, in my opinion. But I think honestly, when I look at the scope of the situation, I think it's a good start, from both sides. I think now with the Erica Hamby going to Los Angeles, she adds championship experience to that team alongside players like Nneka Ogwumike and others. And at first, I did kind of look at it because I want to say, I can't remember exactly, but I do believe that they did trade for Amanda Zahui B in the beginning. I do. I think that's who they traded for. I think that was who they traded for. So, and I'm a fan of Amanda Zahui B. I mean, she's now with the Mystics now, but to me, I felt like it was a downgrade just because of the versatility of what De'Erica Hamby can bring. This is a player who can play 5 out on offense, can space the floor. She's a great passer, a great screener. She can run PNR on occasion, and then of course on defensive end, she can guard multiple positions as well. So with that versatility that she brought to the table, and honestly, she played a really big role even in the finals last year, because a lot of people may have forgot, but she was hurt for most of the playoffs, and then I think she returned, I think, game 1 of the finals, and she played throughout the majority of that series. So I feel like, in my opinion, the front office definitely did handle it poorly. But now looking at the scope of the situation, I wish De'Erica nothing but the best in Los Angeles. I think that she's going to thrive there, and let's see if she could possibly be one of the pieces that can help bring Los Angeles back to being a playoff contender.
I like that. I like that perspective. Unfortunately, we have one more topic that we don't get to talk hoops. By the way, that trade was Dearica Hamby and a 24 first for Amanda Zahui B, like you said, now in Washington, and a 24 second. But one more situation for the Las Vegas Aces. They get fined by the WNBA for, I believe it was phrased as payments under the table to players, and that kind of comes to the forefront with the addition of a Candace Parker, kind of the largest addition for the Aces at a very cheap contract. But I guess from your standpoint, obviously we all want expansion. We all want better pay for the players. We all want more roster spots. NIL opportunities are good. All of that is great, but a competitive imbalance is in no way good for the league. Uh, did you think this investigation was worthwhile? Did you think it kind of needed to happen?
I think it did. Yeah, I think just to spread awareness of what happened, and then of course, I guess using, I guess, a W would try to use the Aces as an example of, I guess, what and what not to do. I mean, it's like you mentioned, we want higher pay for these players. These are a lot of these players in the league are superstar players. Asia Wilson is a superstar caliber player. Brianna Stewart is a superstar caliber player. So, of course, these type of players do deserve more money. And then, of course, we do want an expansion as well because of the fact that, especially over the past few days or possibly the last week or so, watching so many talented young players get cut from the roster because there just isn't enough roster spots. But in hindsight, I think the W was just using the Aces as an example in the situation, and you just hope for better, honestly, moving forward.
Totally. And I guess one last question here on that situation is from a player's perspective, looking at what happened with the Aces, how does that affect their reputation with the players, with other teams' owners? Are there any repercussions from what occurred?
Um, I think if you are a player and you were considering Vegas a new destination for yourself, I think you could consider it. I think you could, like, take that into consideration of how they handle a lot of the situations. But unfortunately, sometimes winning does kind of overshadow things, and the Aces are a team that's going to be contenders for a very, very long time, especially with Asia Wilson, who is currently in the prime of her career. So when you look at it from that perspective, when you're looking at this team continue to succeed on the court, I think a lot of teams are going to want to gravitate and look at it from that perspective and say, hey, I want to come play here just because the franchise is a winning environment, and we want to continue to put ourselves in a position where we can possibly win multiple championships.
Absolutely. And honestly, let's get more into that because this is a team that just won the championship, and they go and they add Candace Parker. How do you see her fitting in with this roster? Is there can you beat a roster, a starting five that has all five of those all stars in it?
Yeah, it's funny because immediately once Candace announced she was going to sign, there was always questions surrounding her, saying, is the chemistry going to work? I think in this stage of her career, Candace is such a selfless player. I mean, we saw it in Chicago, allowing players like Kalia Copper to shine, allowing other players like Courtney Vandersloot and others, Emma Meeson. And so I think at this stage in her career, because she's about 36, 37 years old, I think she's going to fit with the team very, very well. I mean, she's played. I mean, her and Asia Wilson, I think they're going to work out really fine. She's played with post players in the past. Early in her career, Lisa Leslie, Nneka Ogwumike, even last year in Chicago playing next to Emma Meeson. And so she already knows how to play alongside post scorers. And then, of course, the versatility of Candace Parker, whether it's passing, whether it's screening, whether it's being able to score, being able to space the floor. I know that Candace is not an elite 3-point shooter, but she's capable of stretching the floor out and being able to knock down perimeter shots. And then, of course, defensively, being a great rim protector, being able to be a great communicator, seeing everything that's happening on the floor. I think that this is going to benefit Las Vegas tremendously. And with her looking for their second championship, I think this is going to go hand in hand. I mean, and not even to mention, she has chemistry already, winning a championship next to Chelsea Gray, winning a championship next to Raquana Williams as well, so with the Sparks. So she already has that chemistry built. All she has to do is add that alongside players like Asia Wilson, Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young, and the rest of them. Man, I think they're going to be fine. I think Candace is going to fit with them tremendously.
Yes, and Candace Parker along with Alicia Clark. So those two players and all they're really replacing, they retain a majority of their core from last year. You already mentioned kind of the core four who had great seasons last year, but they lose Dearka Hamby, Teresa Plaisance, Ileana Rupert, and they replace them with CP3 and Alicia Clark. I mean, how do those additions make up for the losses and maybe even more?
I think it works out pretty well. I mean, it's like I mentioned before. I mean, these are two great defensive players, but they also are two-time champions, respect individually. So they already add that championship experience that Las Vegas already has. So it's not like they're bringing in any young players who may have little or no playoff experience. You know, these are two players who have been battle tested, who have been on deep playoff runs. So it just adds to the firepower that Las Vegas already has. So that's why I consider this team probably the most dangerous team in the WNBA. I mean, I know there's other great teams like the Liberty, even Phoenix coming back with returning to the floor, but with Las Vegas coming off of a championship already, and then them adding two great defensive talents, and then of course with two championships, with two champions as well. I think it's gonna work out tremendously for this team moving forward.
Couldn't agree more. And this team, I guess, kind of we've discussed how they changed their offensive system. They've got a wonderful system with those two players fitting into it well. Kind of the other storyline from last season was a lack of depth, and I don't know that they've fully addressed that, despite Alicia Clark added to the mix. So what do you think about their kind of situation with depth?
Well, it depends on how deep you wanna add your rotation. So if Becky Hammond is looking to possibly play 10 players, then I can understand it. But if she's adding, the starting five, and then of course 3 players, because I mean the starting lineup project is probably going to be Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young, Asia Wilson, and Candace Parker. Then off the bench, you're going to have Alicia Clark, possibly Kia Stokes. I'm not sure who's going to be that eighth person, but it depends on how deep Becky wants the rotation to be. So if she wants to just go 8 out, then that'd be great. But honestly, I will say that that the depth has honestly been an issue over the past few years, in my opinion. And I guess you say they're not as deep off the bench this year, but I think they have so much offensive firepower with just Asia, Chelsea, Candace. It automatically makes up for it, and also Kelsey, can't forget her.
Yeah, and one other name, Raquana Williams, played a huge role in that postseason
Yeah,
run from a year ago.
right.
But
And also not to mention, Kelsey Plum is also another player, in my opinion, who you can play the first and second unit. So it's not like you're going to lose a lot of offense if you do implement her with the second unit. Not saying that she's going to come off the bench, but there could be stretches of the game where Becky will add her in there alongside Alicia Clark or Keystone or whoever. So you're not going to lose a lot of offense, if you add at least either Kelsey, Jackie, or Chelsea on the second unit.
and I mean Chelsea Plum's she's willing to play all 40 minutes out there for Becky Hammond, and obviously
Yeah, she's a
that
dog.
uh-huh should not be the case at least throughout the regular season, but she's willing to do it, and it's a huge advantage for this roster. They also bring in Kayla George, Alexis Peterson. They only have one draft pick. It's a third round pick. Why do you think that was okay for this Las Vegas Aces team?
Um, Probably because they're in win now mode. So I mean, when you're in win now mode, I mean, picks don't really matter as far as for a real championship contender. Now, if they were looking to rebuild, then possibly it would be a kind of an issue. But I mean, it's like I mentioned before, Asia is 26, 27 years old, so she's in the prime of her career. So the organization should be prioritizing to continue to build around Asia and helping her be in a position to win. So, with them being in win now mode, I guess I mean I'm not saying that draft picks aren't important, but to this team like the Aces, I don't think it really matters a lot.
That's fair. I mean, I think you see that a lot from contending teams to where let's just try and get win now pieces, and those picks they'll be late in the draft most of the time, not always going to work out like that. As we start to move forward, talking offensively, defensively for this roster, we talked about the Las Vegas Aces where they got out and moved. They got shot a lot of threes last year, got out in transition for a lot of their offense in the regular season. Come the postseason, that really just became Chelsea Gray in the half court on that side of the ball. Do you have any concerns with how this team generates points, or is the addition of Candace Parker just like We can go to either side. We're through Asia Wilson or Candace Parker.
Well, I think the thing is, and you mentioned Chelsea and her emergence in the playoffs, but I think honestly, Vegas moves the ball so well to it's like to a point to where anybody can get theirs. Honestly, like Chelsea can create in a half court. Chelsea Plum is able to. You can add Asia Wilson, on the post, either back to the basket or face up, or she's able to stretch the floor. So there's a lot of versatility already on the offensive ends where they already add the great ball movement. And then on top of that, if you double team one, they'll be. I mean, the other players are great passes as well, so they'll be able to kick it out to another person. So I think Vegas is fine. I don't really see any concerns on the offensive end. I think that they'll be able to figure it out, over the course of the season. Will there be some bumps in the road in the beginning to some firepower? But I think in the end they may figure it out.
I'm right there with you. And you've already talked about Candace Parker and what she can bring defensively. So that helps a lot. Do you think perimeter defense even could be less of an issue when we talked about their defense with the addition of Alicia Clark, or do you have any concerns with this team's defense?
Not necessarily. Alicia Clark definitely does bring a different defensive intensity to that team. So I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Becky were to allow her in closing lineups just in case she may have to guard one of the team's like perimeter players. Like it's like, for instance, like let's say for instance they play the Dallas Wings and you need a player to guard Arika Gumbawala. I think Alicia Clark will probably be the best option, honestly. I mean, not saying that Chelsea Gray or Kelsey Plum or Jackie Young can't get the job done, but as far as an elite perimeter defender, I'm going Chelsea Gray all day. So I think they definitely did make up for, or I think they definitely did add as far as perimeter defense from that perspective. But then of course, interior as well. Asia Wilson Defensive Player of the Year. Candace Parker is known as a great rim protector, great interior defender. So I think defensively they're going to be clicking on all cylinders.
Do you have any concerns or see any weaknesses on this team heading into the 2023 season?
Honestly, I don't. I mean, obviously on paper this looks great, and of course they're going to have to play on the court to see if it's there. But when I look at, I guess to me it's like everyone's so selfless. So I think if they do have like a small struggle in the beginning, I feel like they're going to be able to figure it out. So that's why I'm honestly confident in this team. And then of course with a great coach that Becky is, she's going to make adjustments if necessary. So if they do get off to a slow start in the season, I do feel like as time progresses, they will be able to turn things around.
I mean, there's not much you can say when it comes to a team that just won the championship. So many positive storylines, so many stories of development. You have a couple of rough news PR stories over the summer or over the offseason rather, but we're getting ready for a team that got better in the offseason and they're looking to avenge their championship run, go and try and win back to back. So I'm right there with you. I'm excited about this team. Now we're going to get into some of the fun predictions that we like to do here on a pro basketball show. And that's going to start out. And all of these are awards specific to this team. But starting out with your win-loss prediction, a new 40-game season, what do you like?
40-game season. I'll say 29-11.
Okay. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, it might be too high for a lot of other people, but I think they're gonna have that good of a season. I don't know if it'll be the best record in the league, but I think it'll definitely be up there as far as top three.
I can see that. I was leaning 30, maybe even more. So I think you're probably smart to just be a little bit under. Who do you see as the MVP for this team at the end of the season?
Definitely Asia Wilson. I think that she's the go-to player on this team. I think that she's going to have to set the tone, and honestly, I think the vets will allow her to do that. Like Candace is going to allow her to do that. Chelsea Gray will continue to allow her to do that. I think everything revolves around Asia, and her energy on both ends is very, very important. So if she's off to a good start, if she's setting the tone, if she's communicating on both ends of the court, I think that just allows Vegas to be better. So I definitely pick Asia to be the MVP of this team.
MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. She could be up there in the running at the end of the year, even despite all the talent. If the Aces have a good enough year. Up next, the most improved player on this team. Do you see anyone coming up the ranks? Potentially a Kirsten Bell, someone like that off the bench, or who do you like for that award?
Possibly, but I guess you could say I'll go with kind of an underrated player on this team. I don't know if it's really improved, but I would love to see if Becky can really allow her to really shine within the offense, especially with so much firepower on the team. But I will go Jackie Young. I think Jackie's very underrated, especially on both ends of the floor. She's a great scorer. I mean, we saw it last year in the playoffs. When she ended up, I think she ended up having like one of the game winners in the Seattle series. Or not the game winners, but the game time in the Seattle series. So she's shown that she can come through when her team needs to, and I would love to see Beck kind of implement kind of like create more plays for her in offense.
Well, with so much attention focused on the guards and Chelsea Plum, Chelsea Gray, and the bids, Candace Parker, Asia Wilson, I like that pitch. I'd see Jackie really taking a step forward. That would be really fun to watch. The sixth player of the year coming off the bench. Who do you like for this award?
Definitely Alicia Clark. I think that's gonna be big. I mean, I know we talk a lot about her defense, but I mean, she's a really great perimeter scorer. She's able to knock down shots, so she's able to impact the game from both perspectives. And of course, I'll go back to defensively. If she is in those closing lineups and she is guarding possibly the best player, she may make one of the biggest plays, like either steal, either a block. Who knows? So definitely Alicia Clark. Coming off the bench, she could be their sixth man.
And just her strength too. I think that's someone the Mystics are going to really miss. Kind of a little underrated loss for them. But yeah, her 3-point shot, especially for the Mystics, was really important. I like that call.
Really good.
Defensive player of the year, is it just too obvious at this point?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, I think you can go different ways. I mean, obviously, Asia is the WNBA ranked defensive player of the year, but I think they just have so many great defensive players that you can go either way. Either Asia, Alicia, Candace. Who knows? But I go with the safe pick and say Asia.
Yeah, that's fair. Lastly, for awards wise, rookie or newcomer of the year, I opened it up to newcomer, and I guess that leaves Candace Parker as kind of an obvious one. But yeah, with the Aces not having a lot of rookies at all, who do you like for this award?
Right. I'll go Candace because I think there is a lot of pressure on this team. Even though I do have high expectations for them, and I do think that they will succeed, there is immense pressure. So I think with Candace Parker being that veteran and of course being a former MVP, I think is going to be her job to possibly try to buy into the system and buy into that team. So if she's able to do that, then I'll definitely pick her for that award.
And lastly, for some fun ones, the unsung hero on this team.
Ooh, I'm going to go Alicia Clark, man. I'm gonna go Alicia Clark. I really think she's gonna be great for this team. I mean, we mentioned it both offensively and defensively. I think she's gonna be the unsung hero on this team that really helps them go and really can possibly help them, make it.
And a player on the end of the bench, I think could be a favorite for this next award, but class clown on the Las Vegas Aces.
Class clown on the Las Vegas Aces.
I'm
Her personality is just so great, honestly. So yeah, I can see that.
who was that you chose?
I chose Asia as far as class clown on the team.
Okay. I was
Yeah.
thinking Sydney Colson.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good pick. That's actually a good one.
Just based
really
off of
funny.
her Twitter alone, hilarious. Okay, lastly here, the best trash talker on the Aces.
I might go Chelsea. I don't know. It's tough. I might go either Chelsea or I might go Kelsey because Kelsey, I feel like she's a dog. I feel like she's highly competitive. So there may be. I mean, I wish I could get glimpses of what goes on in the practice. Unfortunately, I don't have that luxury. But I feel like she really goes at it at practice and really, does a lot of talking. So actually, I'll probably go Kelsey. I'll say Kelsey.
A lot of options on this team. I think Candace Parker's even up there. But all right,
Yeah, definitely.
Kelsey. I like that pick as well. All right. Nick, seriously, thank you so much for joining me. Any last takes you want to get in before the 2023 season?
Oh man, I'm sure everyone is expecting this, but if we can get a Las Vegas Aces New York Liberty finals, that would be probably the greatest finals we have ever seen in history. Easily.
The talent is off the charts.
Easily.
All right, Nick, lastly, can you tell everybody where they can find your work?
Yes, sir. So first and foremost, man, thank you so much for having me. I mean, I love talking hoops. I love talking to WNBA, man, especially with the season being underway, man. This is a really dope episode. As far as for me, follow me on Twitter at NickAndreATR. I'm a basketball writer / analyst who covers everything from high school, college, NBA, WNBA, just about everything basketball. I also have MNC Hoops. We talk everything NBA. We stream live on Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, check out my links. Check out my link tree in my Twitter bio. You'll see everything from podcasts, articles, you name it.
Super appreciative of you, Nick, for joining me, for all the love you've given already on getting this thing started. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure on a Pro Basketball Show.
Yes, sir, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for tuning into a Pro Basketball Show. You can catch a Pro Basketball Show on streaming services such as YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify with live broadcasts on playback. Make sure to follow us at APBShow on social media platforms such as Twitter and Instagram, with more coming soon. Until next time, I am Andrew Willett. Thank you for tuning in.